it's Alice. It's been a while, but I'm back with another video today talking about the different ways that you can study for the GRE. Before we get into each of the actual methods, I want to say that there's no such thing as a silver bullet, and of course, there's also a ton of free material out there regardless of how you want to study, including all of my videos here on YouTube. If you don't want to spend any money on resources, I totally understand. Just know that if you go the free route, you may be paying for it with your time in terms of finding the right materials and going through them and curating them for yourself. I'll start with study method number 1, self-studying. This can be much cheaper depending on how well you do it. There are plenty of resources out there that you can rely on, including ETS official materials. Recently, they've also introduced different video series and a way to score your essay using AI. So this is more than viable for the vast majority of people. You'll also find a lot of self-paced video series out there, books, PDFs. You can always reference forums like Reddit and Discord. To me, books are really underrated here. I think for the most part, they really distill down all of the important themes into a relatively digestible summary. So some of the pros of self-studying, like I mentioned, are that it can definitely be cheaper and you can really tailor this to your own progress and your own strengths and weaknesses. You can choose what to focus on, and you can also pace yourself depending on how much time you need, if you're retaking the test or anything like that. On the other side, note that you will be, of course, relying on yourself a lot. That means that self-studying can be a really lonely process, especially if you don't know anyone else who's taking the GRE with you. You need some sort of self-awareness and expertise in how to study, how to assess how you're doing, and you need to be able to trust your own progress. In my opinion, that means that self-studying works best for someone who has a decent background. At one time, you knew all of this material and you knew it quite well, but maybe it's been a little while and you just need to refresh yourself, perhaps learn a few new concepts. Unless you're extremely self-motivated, you'll probably have trouble with accountability and staying on track. I'm introducing study groups that could help you solve this problem, so be sure to check out the link in the description down below to find out more about that. Let's move on to the second option, which are the traditional test prep classes. A lot of these are in person, but nowadays, of course, everything is available online, so you have the opportunity to figure out which method is best for you. Generally speaking, these are really great because you don't really end up having to worry about too much in terms of planning, pacing yourself, gathering materials, and things like that. I think that makes these classes really good for people who have a weaker background or less discipline. You'll have a teacher to be able to walk you through a lot of topics and someone to rely on if you run into any challenges. Since you'll also be in a class, most of the time you'll also have access to other people who are going through the same process as you and along the same timeline, which is really nice in case you run into some sort of problem that you need to ask somebody about. Do keep in mind, on the other hand, that classes can be pretty expensive. Most of the time, these are sold as a package. So the cheapest ones that I've seen are around $500, and they can go all the way up until $1,000. There won't be a lot of tailoring in the classes, particularly if those are pre-recorded videos or if you're in a relatively large class. With that, it may be pretty difficult to identify your weaknesses and really focus in on them. If you're shooting for a score that is 360 plus, you will likely have to supplement the class with a lot of work on your own, and this is where a tutor could potentially help you. Keep in mind also that when you're paying for a class, you will likely be working with that company's materials only. Now, of course, they have an incentive to get you a good score and to try to present material in the best way possible, but they may not be able to use ETS's official resources and questions in their teaching. That may skew your understanding of how ETS's actual questions work. Just make sure that if you do take a class, you supplement it with other materials and make sure that you're referencing ETS resources that are out there. Lastly, we have a private tutor. This option is rarer, of course, because most people probably have never considered using a tutor. A lot of benefits to using a tutor include the same thing as a class. You don't have to worry too much about planning, gathering materials, and things like that. They can really help you supplement your self-study or your class study. In general, I would recommend not relying solely on a tutor to teach you everything because you're probably going to be paying way more than is necessary. Since we're all adults, you know how to study if you're going to grad school, and a tutor is really there to help you really hone in on your weaknesses and work on them. A really good tutor will give you direction in terms of where to study, the resources to use, how you specifically might be able to improve. They'll also clarify the application of different strategies. This part, I think, is the most valuable thing that a tutor can do because in a class, most of the time you're not going to have the opportunity to walk through questions by yourself. And what I mean is, even though you may go through questions, a lot of times you're going to be listening to how other people are solving them instead of being prompted to solve them yourself and for a tutor to really walk you through the correct thought process. In addition, they should be able to identify your weaknesses and offer a lot of accountability. And the accountability part, I think, is another huge pro. They can also provide you direct feedback anytime that you're going through something, and they should serve as a really expert resource that's available to you whenever you need them. That can make them really good if you're looking to get a really high score or you just need a little bit of help identifying where your weaknesses are. In particular, I think that tutors can be super valuable for people who are taking the GRE for a second, third, fourth, or fifth time, especially if you're unable to figure out how to increase your score by yourself. A tutor should be able to bring that to you. Now, they should also be able to avoid generic advice, which is what you're going to see with self-studying and with classes. That means that they're really good if you're looking to save time or you need an extra boost to really figure out what direction to go in. Now, keep in mind, of course, that if you're going to be using a tutor, they might be a bit expensive. Anytime you find one, you really want to plan out how to make the most of your time with that person, and that planning process should be collaborative. Most of the time, the tutor should be able to give you an idea of how to work together and then be able to tailor it to you depending on what your needs are. You may also be concerned about their teaching style. So if you have access to that person's materials, whether that be on their website, their YouTube channel, or they're really active in a Discord or Reddit, that can be a really good indication of whether that person's teaching style is going to jibe with you. And of course, it can be difficult to pick the right tutor, so make sure you understand whether or not you can ask for a refund, what their policies are, and how they respond to feedback from you. Make sure that they're responsive to your needs even as you are working with them. Make sure they're not afraid to change up their style if they see that you're not really getting it. Do keep in mind that I offer private tutoring services as well. If you're interested in meeting with me for a consultation, I'll leave the link in the description down below, and I hope this clarifies for you a little bit on figuring out what you should do, what's going to be most useful for you when you're deciding how to prep for the GRE. Best of luck! Check out what my student Josh had to say about working with me. Visit my website or email me at alicechengre@gmail.com to learn more.